What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we got another huge update. Now you guys can probably already tell it is going down. Just by that title alone, guys, you're definitely gonna want to see this one, as we got the left's Bill Maher finally facing a bit of payback for his slanderous and negative remarks on Donald Trump over the years, guys, in this newest update. I'm excited to get into it, so we're not straight into it. So make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Before we get into it, you guys, hit that like button, also hit that subscribe button for your boy. Without further ado, let's get straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
Ivermectin or something, and then ivermectin, which won the Nobel Prize.
Right.
And nobody, it was like, that became snake oil? No.
Yeah.
Just because Trump says it doesn't mean it's automatically wrong.
Automatically
Did he
wrong.
have a point about that we don't?
Of course he did.
Okay.
Of course he did. And what we should be doing in the city, and what we should do now, we have an opportunity, underground the power lines.
And finally, new rule, we may not be able to do much about the weather, but we do need a better plan for putting out a burning city than waiting for rain. America is so partisan now that even when there's a disaster of any kind, so many people choose to defend their own team, even over death. A lot of Democrats in this one-party state this week went right to, don't blame politicians, you can't do anything about the wind. Which is exactly half true, the wind part. Yes, fire is a tough fight out here, and yes, global warming absolutely makes it worse. But that's largely out of our control. What are we going to do? Pass a ballot measure to make sure Chinese stop burning coal? It's also, yes, undeniably true that LA is built in a stupid place to build a city. But when it's not on fire, it's really quite lovely. And it's my home. And stupid as its origin may be, it's not going anywhere. Axios ran a story on how getting the water out of the hydrants in Pacific Palisades was more complicated than it seems. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's very complicated. That's why I pay 13% of my income in this state every year to people who I assumed were working on things like this.
And honestly, you hear Bill Maher, he's kind of starting to come around to it and realize that these folks that are in leadership, like Gavin Newsom, are truly not for them. But it's sad to see that it takes something, a catastrophe, a disaster of this magnitude, and for them to be directly affected by the disaster, for them to truly wake up and realize that these folks aren't coming to save them. They're only there for, personal and political gain. You see, they're too busy playing the blame game and pointing fingers, blame shifting to others instead of taking accountability. I mean, a dry reservoir in, dry season in California, this does not make sense. This isn't incompetence. It may be intentional. I'm not sure, but I'm glad to see folks like Bill Maher waking up.
When asked why so many of the hydrants in the Palisades ran out of water, Governor Newsom said the local folks are trying to figure that out. Yeah, you got to do that before the fire. At least in the Palisades, the hydrants were still there. 300 other ones around the city are just gone. Stolen for parts. One of the 3 reservoirs for the Palisades was offline at the one time of year when it was most needed. LA's Mayor Karen Bass, the Nero of American politics, was fiddling in Ghana while the city burned and later placed the blame on 8 months of negligible rain and winds that have not been seen in LA in at least 14 years. Yeah, that's not that long a time. Maybe look in the history books to see how our ancestors handled it back in 2 and 11. The mayor said about cuts to the fire department's budget, there were no reductions that were made that would have impacted the situation. The fire chief here had a slightly different take. She said, we are screaming to be properly funded. And yes, the budget was cut and it did impact our ability to provide service. And by the looks of all the fire engines in the boneyard out of service because we didn't fix them, she's right.
And again, folks, it doesn't make sense to me. It takes for him to be directly affected for him to start roasting and calling out these players, and then they'll go and they'll still continue the cycle. They'll vote for and support these folks on the left that are all talk, but not really game when it comes to the things that truly matter. They're only there for the things that are flashy, the glitz, the glamour that are going to catch the guy, the voter that's going to say, oh, I think he did this. He shoveled off a billion to the homeless, solving the homeless crisis that didn't even do anything, and then shoveled off another billion to illegal migrants. So I guess I'll give this guy my vote, whereas he could have protected, all these families, that lost their home, that lost everything in these fires.
Exposed power lines keep causing fires and keep not getting buried underground because it's expensive. I've heard people say, do you want to pay more taxes to fund this? No. I want you to use the exorbitant taxes you already collect to prioritize it. Power lines that cut through Topanga weren't upgraded because it endangered an herb, the milk vetch, which sounds like something they serve at Passover. I mean, talk about not seeing the forest for the trees. You know what the absolute worst thing for the environment is? Wildfires. A 22 study found that the smoke from just the two in 2020 wiped out 18 years of carbon reduction in the state, which means we suffered the pain of driving those early model Priuses for nothing. California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail. We have the highest marginal tax rate in America, higher than almost all other states, and soon Greenland. What is included for that? Breadsticks? Because it clearly doesn't cover fire. That's government's job. Protect us from crime, violence, theft, fire. I'm not saying Alabama would have done better with fires by fighting them with prayer in school. But look me in the eye and tell me anyone could have done worse. We just got our kicked by fire, something Neanderthals fought to a tie.
To know there's a fire coming, to know you're in fire season. We had a fire 3 weeks ago in Malibu. Yeah. 6 years ago, we had a fire in Brentwood. And for those that don't know the Brentwood area, it's 15 minutes from where the Palisades fire was. There's 40-year-old vegetation between Brentwood and the Palisades. And at that time, I said, if that fire travels, it's going to come through and wipe out the Palisades. I'm so sad that I was right. It was predictable, Bill. What's predictable is preventable. And then on top of it, to have a main reservoir out of service during peak fire season?
Yeah.
I mean, that's border negligence. And so we've got to get to the backstory of this, but you've got to make good business decisions. Running this city is running a business for the benefit of the residents. And what everybody should have been saying, we had all the alerts about the firestorm coming in or the winds coming in. Why wasn't more done? Why didn't we make sure the reservoirs were all topped off? You should never run out of water.
You mentioned the vegetation. Now, I remember when we had a fire when Trump was president, and he came in and he said, "You don't rake. You're not raking." And I did. We all did jokes about it. But we got to get over this thing. Is he wrong usually? Yeah. But I'm not going to. I remember when he took ivermectin or something, and then ivermectin, which won the Nobel Prize.
Right.
And nobody, it was like, that became snake oil? No. Yeah. Just because Trump says it doesn't mean it's automatically wrong. Did he have a point about that we don't?
Of course he did.
Okay.
Of course he did.
And I'm trying to figure out how this guy, Bill Maher, he's slowly coming around, slowly but surely, but I'm not sure how he goes and say Trump is most of the time, majority of the time, incorrect when this guy is constantly agreeing with Donald Trump. He needs to drop that ego and go ahead and admit the truth. I feel like that's what's going on with a lot of these left-wing lunatics. It's the legacy media Trump derangement syndrome. They just simply, like Bill Maher said, Donald Trump has said before, we need to rake. We need to rake. And after the fires, what Donald Trump said, we didn't rake. Why didn't you guys rake? This is totally preventable. And on top of that, tons of negligence from leadership, the empty reservoirs. The uncoated fire hydrants, now we're figuring out they were not, I guess they were 2.5 feet instead of 4 feet. I'm not sure what was going on there with the fire hydrants. We definitely need more clarifications, but it just seems like there were so many factors that could have been completely avoidable, you know, in this disaster. But again, we have terrible leadership at hand. So, I mean, my heart, you know, my prayers goes out to all those families that were affected, you know, but those folks who voted for this, they're truly getting what they voted for at this point. You know, you keep voting these folks into power, into leadership, and they don't do anything but, you know, try to make their name look good. If it doesn't have glitz and glamour, doesn't shine in the eye, they're not going to address it, guys. Definitely hop in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Also want to give a huge shout out and thanks to all the folks who have made it this far. Definitely appreciate you guys, you know, showing up day in, day out. I try to bring you guys, keep you up to date with the most current events, news stories that I feel like are newsworthy. But yeah. Make sure you guys also hit that like button, man. Hit that subscribe button for your boy. If you enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next one. We go.